President Trump did point out that, Ron, you're being so negative. I want to be part of the solution.
Senator Ron Johnson on the President Trump-Elon Musk war and Johnson's firm opposition to the president's tax and spending plan.
Johnson talking with the president this past week and at the White House with members of the Finance Committee, and it still appears this weekend a long ways to go. ABC News Washington Bureau Chief Rick Klein joins us now. Hey, Rick, good to see you.
Hey, great to be with you.
All right, let's start with Trump and Musk. I know Jonathan Karl talked to the president on Friday. What do we make of what happened, and where does this go from here?
It is absolutely wild. Huge implications, not just for the bill that Ron Johnson is trying to change or tank, but also for the future of the Trump movement, the MAGA movement. Elon Musk, the world's richest man with the platform of X, versus Trump, the most powerful man in the presidency, in the world, with the presidency, his own wealth, and of course, Truth Social to fire back. I think a lot of people assume that they are going to find some kind of a peace, some kind of a detente. But until or unless that happens, you're seeing just huge fallout politically in terms of the future of the bill, politically in the future of loyalty to Trump. Also, just practically speaking, there are Musk companies that have contracts with the federal government that are critical to the national security infrastructure, to the space program. Even the Wi-Fi in the West Wing is helped provided by Musk-related companies. And Musk going back and firing back and suggesting there's a Jeffrey Epstein connection to Donald Trump. It is all kind of wild, which is one reason that they may have to walk back from the brink, is that they're into a sort of mutually assured destruction. In the meantime, it's one of the craziest political stories. In some ways, as predictable as anything else, just because it always ends this way with Trump. In other ways, this was not what anyone could have actually seen coming.
Obviously, he's in the spotlight immensely right now, but there was a moment after the Wisconsin Supreme Court election and the major losses by Republicans that he kind of disappeared. After he came to Wisconsin, he campaigned, he gave out those $1 million checks. Did that loss play into where we are today?
It definitely took some real shine off. I mean, it seemed like he had a magic touch after the presidential election, not just helping deliver the presidency for Trump, but also the House and the Senate. And it contributed to the sense that he is this enormous force. But that Wisconsin loss was a big one. He went in there and said it was the future of civilization at stake. He was all in on the race, and he ended up not, as you know very well, it wasn't even that close in the end. And the backlash was to Elon Musk.
All right, let's talk about Senator Johnson for a second. He's taking a big role in the opposition to this bill. Where do you see this going in the Senate?
Well, it was always an expectation that there'd be major changes. The Senate's going to do its own job. There's some things that procedurally would not survive in the Senate version of the bill. The real question is going to be, are there additional spending cuts? Are there areas where they're going to go further on Medicare or Medicaid than the House did? And are they going to scale back some of the deductions for state and local taxes that were very important for getting this over the finish line? I think Ron Johnson got a huge boost, though, this week with Elon Musk. I think that does change the politics when you're Senator Johnson, and now you have Elon Musk saying, this is a bad bill, not from the moderate side or the Democratic side, but from the fiscal conservative side. It says, look at all these, pork barrel little special deals that are put in here. Look at how little it does to trim the deficit. Look at how spending is not impacted. That is, I think, wind in Ron Johnson's sails.
All right, just another week in Washington. ABC News Washington Bureau Chief Rick Klein. Rick, like always, thank you.
Hey, thanks so much.
Up next, the new bills.